Good morning. This is the time and place for zoning cases hearing for April 3rd, 2013. My name is Bradley Collin. I will be conducting the hearing as a hearing officer. We have one case scheduled for today, and the relevant exhibits and plans are posted on the panel located directly behind me. If you wish to speak, please write your name and address on one of the speaker forms, which have been provided at the front door and submitted to our planning assistant. I'd also like to inform everyone that the official proceedings of the zoning hearing are recorded on tape as part of the public record. Notification of this hearing was accomplished by the use of public notices, which were mailed to property owners and occupants located within 500 feet of the subject property, physically posted on the site in question, and placed in the local newspaper. The request we have today is an application for a conditional use permit to allow the sales, service, on-site consumption of alcoholic beverages at a full-service restaurant known as Recess, located at 1102 North Brand Boulevard in the C3 Commercial Service Zone. Under the provisions of Title 30, Chapter 30.42 of the Glendale Municipal Code, a conditional use permit shall be granted if four of the required findings are present. They are, first, that the proposed use will be consistent with the elements and objectives of the general plan. Second, that the use and its associated structures and facilities will not be detrimental to the public health or safety, the general welfare, or the environment. Third, that the use and facilities will not adversely affect or conflict with adjacent uses or impede the normal development of surrounding property. And fourth, that adequate public-private facilities such as utilities, landscaping, parking spaces, traffic circulation measures are or will be provided for the proposed use. In addition, every discretionary decision made related to the sales, service, or consumption of alcoholic beverages needs to meet the 5 criteria, which I will read through. First, that there where existing or proposed on-site use is located in a census tract with more than recommended maximum concentration of on-site uses, or that where an existing or proposed off-site use is located in a census tract with more than recommended maximum concentration of off-site uses, both as recommended by the California Department of Alcoholic Beverage Control, such use does not or will not tend to intensify or otherwise contribute to the adverse impacts on the surrounding area caused by such an overconcentration. Second, that where the existing or proposed use is located in a crime reporting district with a crime rate which exceeds 20% of the city average for Part 1 crimes, as reported by the Glendale Police Department, such use does not or will not tend to encourage or intensify crime within the district. Third, that the existing or proposed use does not or will not adversely impact any church, public or private school or college, daycare facility, public park, library, hospital, or residential use within the surrounding area. Fourth, that adequate parking and loading facilities are or will be provided for the existing proposed use. Other responsible alternatives satisfy the transportation and parking needs of the existing or proposed use. And fifth, notwithstanding consideration of the criteria in subsections 1 through 4 above, which I just read, the existing or proposed use does or will serve a public necessity or public convenience purpose for the area. If the evidence presented in the application at the hearing meets the criteria just described, then the hearing officer can either approve, impose conditions for approval on the case in question. If the findings of fact are not evident, the request will be denied. The hearing will proceed as follows. The case planner will make a brief overview of the case, give analysis, and make a recommendation. The applicant will be asked to come forward stating both name and address, will be asked to present the case within a 15-minute time limit. Others in support of or opposition to the application or interested parties will be asked to come forward to speak, again clearly stating name and address with a 3-minute time limit, and then the applicant will be given the opportunity to make any closing comments if desired. The hearing will be closed in the case either taken under submission or decision may be made today. At this time, I'd like to ask our case planner to give us our presentation, please.
You want me to start with the comments from other departments?
Please.
Okay. There were two departments or divisions that had comments regarding the proposed conditional use permit. Neighborhood Services had three comments. One was that the outdoor dining area shall comply with the rules and regulations of the city's fresh air ordinance. The second comment, the sidewalk dining permit is in process per the Public Works Engineering Department. And then just to clarify that there were no existing code enforcement cases on the property. Police had a number of suggested conditions, and I'll just summarize them. At times when the premises is open, the service of alcoholic beverages shall be made only in areas designated with an ABC license. They had some hours of operation restrictions. No patron of any of the business establishment will be allowed to bring in any alcoholic beverages unless that alcoholic beverage was purchased within the establishment, unless the facility has any established corkage policy allowing and regulating such. Restaurant shall remain open to the public during operating hours. Live entertainment is permitted with the exception that no karaoke, no bikini activity or events, no lingerie activity or events, no swimwear activity or events, nor any similar activities or events be allowed where partial clothing of male or female entertainment is provided. Music and noise shall be contained within the edifice of the establishment. No more than 50% of the gross revenue from the shall be from the sale of alcoholic beverages, and any establishment serving alcoholic beverages which has a dance floor greater than 200 square feet is considered a nightclub and will require a separate conditional use permit. So I'll proceed with my presentation. Good morning. The applicant is requesting approval of a conditional use permit to allow the sales, service, and on-site consumption of beer and wine at the existing Recess Restaurant, which is located at 1102 North Brand Boulevard. Before I continue with my presentation, I wanted to make a clarification. The restaurant opened in 2009 as a counter service restaurant, and the staff report erroneously cites the Recess Restaurant as a full-service restaurant, and it currently operates as such. So as a condition of approval of the conditional use permit, staff is suggesting that the applicant will need to submit a new zoning use certificate for a full-service restaurant to make the use consistent with the current operation of the restaurant. So I'll step back and continue with my presentation. Staff believes that the findings can be made to support the approval of the conditional use permit to allow beer and wine at Recess Restaurant. The project will be consistent with the objectives and elements of the general plan. The site has a land use designation of commercial service. One purpose of this designation is to improve the economic situation of semi-commercial development. The restaurant is locally owned and located on North Brand Boulevard. This street contains less intense commercial activity than further south on Brand Boulevard, and transitions to residential uses at its terminus to the north. The ability to serve beer and wine should enhance the viability of the restaurant and provide a more complete dining experience. Restaurants are a permitted use in the C3 zone. Serving alcoholic beverages in conjunction with the bona fide food service is a common ancillary use for restaurants. The proposed on-site consumption of beer and wine at the existing restaurant will not be detrimental to the health and safety and public welfare of the neighborhood in general. Recess Eatery has been in operation since May of 2009. While police have been called to the restaurant during the last year, no reports or violations resulted from these visits. And those are detailed more in the staff report. The police department didn't have any concerns regarding the application and suggested a number of standard conditions, which I summarized earlier. The census tract where recess is located has less than the recommended limit of on-site establishments. Crime in the census tract is about 14% above the citywide average. However, restaurants in general, or restaurants frequently serve alcoholic beverages as part of meal service, and this typically doesn't lead to public drunkenness or other alcohol-related crimes. As I said before, neighborhood services did not have concerns regarding the project aside from compliance with the city's fresh air ordinance. It is not anticipated that the existing restaurant with alcohol service will be detrimental to the surrounding mixed-use commercial residential neighborhood, given its modest size and the recommended conditions, which include limiting the hours of operation and alcohol service. The project will not impede normal development within the surrounding area since the area is already fully developed, and should not hinder any redevelopment given that the proposed conditional use permit only requests alcohol service at an existing restaurant. Alcohol service in conjunction with food service is normal and an accepted business plan for restaurants. The applicant's request to serve alcoholic beverages at the restaurant will not result in inadequate public or private facilities. The project site is already developed and associated facilities are existing. The existing restaurant with alcohol service should not result in an increase in utility use. Similarly, the addition of alcohol service is not anticipated to result in demand for additional parking. Glendale Water and Power did not cite any concerns related to providing service to the project. Brand Boulevard is a minor arterial in this area, and this street can adequately handle the existing traffic circulation adjacent to the site. Staff is recommending approval of the conditional use permit with the conditions contained in the staff report and 2 additional conditions, and those conditions are that the applicant shall submit and receive approval of a new zoning use certificate to reflect the current use of the site as a full-service restaurant, or reduce the number of seats in the restaurant to a maximum of 8. The second condition not contained in the staff report was suggested by the police department, and as I briefly mentioned or summarized, allows for live entertainment with appropriate city clerk permit, except for karaoke, bikini activities, or similar events at the restaurant. That concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
I have 2 questions, Mr. Kiesel. The previous use we have on record was restaurant with counter service, which you mentioned. In changing it to a full-service restaurant, will that trigger additional parking?
No, there are provisions in our parking code that allows for change out of uses under 2,000 square feet. The restaurant is roughly 1,000 square feet, so you can change from a counter service restaurant, which requires retail parking standards of 4 per thousand, and change them to a full service restaurant, which requires 10 per thousand without providing additional parking. So no.
Okay, thank you. And then the second question is, they are showing on the plan outdoor dining also. Is that something that would trigger additional parking?
No, not if it complies with outdoor dining standards that we're working on.
Okay, thank you. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and we'll get there. Hang on. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing. We'll hear from the applicant first, and then we'll hear from Anybody else? So the public hearing is now open. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Brett Engstrom, Art Rodriguez and Associates, 709 East Colorado Boulevard, Suite 200, Pasadena 91101. Here on behalf of Recess Eatery, we'd like to thank staff for their diligent work in preparing the staff report and working through the application materials. I have read through the conditions of approval, including the additional two named today with the Zuck, a new Zuck being pulled, and outdoor dining being addressed, and PD's live entertainment. We agree with the conditions. We think they're all reasonable, and we do accept those. Back to the restaurant itself, it has been in operation since May 2009. No particular issues on the property. They've been well respected. They get nice write-ups on Yelp, good quality meals. We would like to add beer and wine. We think it's a reasonable request at a restaurant of this style. It's expected in similar restaurants. It has been in operation for some time now, for a few years. No particular issues. No more issues will be raised with the service, ancillary service of beer and wine. I'd like to address the 4 findings of facts that are necessary for this application to be approved. How will the proposed use be consistent with the general plan? This is a commercially zoned property on a commercial corridor. We have been in operation for years now. This is the proper location for a restaurant of this style. It's a transitional neighborhood from the high-energy commercial area, South Brand area. This is transitional towards the neighborhoods. Small restaurant is a reasonable use. This is the correct location as far as facility size and type of business. In addition, we'd like to address the how it will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, or general welfare. These are now experienced restaurateurs, been in operation for a few years, have done so with no particular issues. The beer and wine service will be ancillary to food service. This is a small restaurant. The meal service is the main focus of the business and will remain so. This is simply an additional beverage selection to offer a more complete meal service. Our third finding, that the use and facilities will not adversely affect or conflict with adjacent uses. As we stated, this is a commercially zoned property along a commercial corridor. There are a variety of commercial uses. There are churches and schools nearby. This is a nice small restaurant with very reasonable hours of operation. So it fits well with this neighborhood. It will not be a late-night destination. It will not have live entertainment. It will not have dancing. This is a small, nice little restaurant which is appropriate for this location. My final finding, adequate public and private facilities. This has been in operation since 2009. There is suitable utility service, landscaping, parking, traffic circulation. This is a nice, I don't want to say quiet neighborhood, but this is a nice location for a small restaurant. There's plenty of street parking. They draw in a number of the local businesses during the lunch hour. It's very convenient for those employed in the area and also those living nearby. So we feel that the facilities themselves can support ancillary beer and wine, as the main focus of the restaurant will remain the same as it is now. At this time, I'd like to answer any questions that you have regarding the operation or our application.
I did have a question. In the notice, it just says consumption of alcoholic beverages, but you're requesting just beer and wine, not full service of alcohol?
We're asking for beer and wine, which would be an ABC Type 41 license, which seems to be a much better fit for this style of restaurant.
Okay. And the second question is, when I went out to the site, I was looking around. Is there a certain location that you have for trash? How is that dealt with?
I believe there's a trash bin on the back side of the property behind the storage and office, which is the small unattached building in the back of the property. I don't have the exact location of that trash bin, I could figure it out and take photos and turn them over to you.
It's possible. And then, you're familiar with all the conditions specified within the police department's memo?
And as stated in the staff report, I am familiar with them, and they do seem reasonable.
Okay. And then, do we have a verification of the square footage of the restaurant?
What I'm going to do is I'm going to verify that right after this hearing. I'll give you an exact count on that number. I wanted to verify that myself to give you the correct number. It is just over 1,000.
Okay.
I don't know if that's exact enough for you.
But under 2?
Under 2, oh, far under 2.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The next card I have is for Tony Bashur. I'd like to come forward and... Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
Pronounced it perfectly.
Oh, thank you. Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Good morning. My name is Tony Bashur. I own the property across the street, 1109 North Brand Boulevard, Glendale 91202. I have a few concerns about the restaurant. The size of the restaurant is kind of, the way it's stated, is a little bit misleading because the outside dining area, which they have converted the parking lot into an outside patio, is tremendously larger than the amount of tables that are inside the restaurant. The inside of the restaurant accommodates for about 8 tables to 12 tables. The outside dining area is more than triple that amount. The other issue that I have is there is a history of kind of trying to bend the rules in that restaurant. First of all, the posting, it's required 30-day posting. This for the ABC license 41. It requires a 30-day of posting. Probably that explains why there is a low turnout for this kind of hearing. The posting was done 2 weeks ago on the front of the property. We did not receive the notice till the 20th of last month. The notice was mailed on the 20th. There is, I don't know why there is no record, but I've been in communication with an investigator Clark from the ABC, and I have the emails that have been exchanged. It seems the owner over there does whatever he needs to do. When he gets caught, he pulls a permit. If he doesn't, he's been serving wine and beer, alcoholic beverages for over a year over there with no license. I'm all for revenues for the city. It's just the attitude that concerns me. As far as parking in that neighborhood, if they continue to use that parking, the parking spots that have been converted into a dining area, the buildings in that neighborhood do not have adequate parking. Most of the parking on North Brand Boulevard is taken by the apartment buildings that are across the street from 1102 North Brand and to the north of 1102 North Brand. As far as their use of the sidewalk permit, I've spoken to the engineering department, and they told me that they are in the process of adjusting that permit because the number of chairs and tables that have been placed in that area exceeds the permit. So I'm all for development of the area, but it has to be done by the rules. No one should be above the rules. Thank you for your time. I've got the emails if you would like to look at them.
Sure.
This is their business card.
You can just drop it off for me.
And as far as Yelp, they've been, you can see highlighted areas. They've been serving wine.
I'll just take it in because you're supposed to be in front of the podium to.
Do you need a copy of those back? Because once we get them, they're ours.
I have copies of
Okay.
those. These are the copies. Actually, they're not the original.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
If you have any questions, I'm willing to answer them.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
All right, Mr. Engstrom, would you like to?
Couple minutes, just
Please, that's fine.
very briefly. I can't really argue any of the statements that Mr. Vashur made. He's been there longer than I have. What I can state is that we are bringing this restaurant into compliance. We have paid all fees, submitted all applications. That is the purpose of our application now, to bring everything up to code, make sure everything is above board and a legal operation. As far as the posting, ABC posting does need to be up for 30 days, which it was. We took it down at the same time we put up the city posting, which only needs to be up for, I believe, 10 days prior to the hearing. That was up. I put it up myself. So while he is correct about the ABC posting, the city posting itself only needs 10 days. I haven't had an opportunity to speak with ABC Investigator Clark. We do have a pending application, which is ready for approval pending our CUP. That will bring everything into compliance on that portion. As stated in the staff report, the sidewalk dining permit is being pursued now. I can find out the details of that and hopefully help work that item through as well. I can answer any additional questions you may have at this time.
The ABC license,
Yes.
if it's a 30-day time period, is that time period start based off of a decision from this meeting?
No, the
Or is
30-day
it run
posting.
concurrent?
We submit the ABC application approximately 4 or 5 days after the CUP, so they run concurrently, both application processes.
But the 30-day time period for noticing, is that something that's...
Actually, it starts before the city. Once the ABC takes the application in and enters it into the computer, pulls up a file number, we receive the posting right away at that point. The mailings go out a few days after that. So the posting actually was up 3 weeks ago. The ABC posting goes up right away and is usually completed far before the city posting goes up.
And that posting is still up? Or
It
is
was taken down at the same time we put up the city posting.
And will that go back up again?
No, it goes up for 30 days. It's
So
dated
it's-
on the posting
So
itself.
that notice for ABC has been
Have-
posted for 30 days? Okay. So in addition to that, the city posting was placed after that time period?
Right.
But they're two separate processes, the city as well as the ABC?
Right. One is the state agency, one is the city portion. The state agency was completed for the 30-day, actually it was up for almost 6 weeks. And then it was taken down by myself when I put up the city posting 10 days ago.
So it was taken down because the time period that it was required to be up was over?
Right. The 30 days had expired.
And in terms of the outdoor dining, that's something that can be brought into compliance with their application?
It would need to be brought into compliance pending what is stated in that outdoor dining permit. Unfortunately, I wasn't privy to that application purpose, but since we are now bringing them together under these conditions, I'm going to have to follow up on that portion as well. which can be done at the same time that we review and reapply for the zoning use certificate.
All right, thank you very much. Another question for Mr. Kiesel for staff, if I may. Do we have a condition, I'm just going through this quickly, that is specific to the outdoor dining in the right-of-way?
No, we do not.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and okay, come on up.
Thank you for your indulgence. When we're speaking about outdoor dining, what are we talking about? Is it the sidewalk, the one in the
There's
public
two-
right-of-way,
there's-
or it's in the one?
I'm sorry, go ahead. There's two different ones that are being shown on the plans. The one that's in the public right-of-way, which is the one that my understanding is being processed through the city's Public Works Department. From what you're saying, the number of seats there are not in compliance with what the city has reviewed previously. Is that?
I know there are some issues with the sidewalk dining. I don't know exactly what those are. I don't know whether it's number of seats, number of tables. I thought it had something to do with the clearance, the width of the sidewalk for clearance purposes. You know, there's a minimum width that they need to keep clear
For pedestrians?
for pedestrians and disabled. I thought that was the issue, but I'm not sure, and it could very well be the number of tables and chairs.
Okay, then the second is they have on their property outdoor dining. Based off the way the zoning code is written, there's an interpretation that basically says if it's pedestrian oriented with more than 20 feet adjacent to the street, that it is not something that would require additional parking. I know that was one of your other questions.
That was my other question. So basically, when we're talking about outdoor dining, we're talking about both, the one that's placed in the right-of-way and the one that is on their property.
Two different areas, but that's correct. One's regulated because it's part of the right-of-way, the other that's part of the private property.
Okay, so the one is in the private property, if it's pedestrian-oriented, does not require an increase in the number of parking that needs to be allocated for that
Mr.
facility.
Kiesel?
Correct, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And then Mr. Engstrom, you can come back up real quick. Just as a point of clarification, you understand and agree to the conditions of approval as recommended by staff with the three added conditions, and actually we'll make it a fourth, adding compliance with the outdoor dining permit, but to obtain a zoning use certificate for the full-service restaurant, the addition of the live entertainment condition, and then I'm also going to require that a trash enclosure be installed, subject to approval from Building and Safety and Integrated Waste, and then also a condition that the outdoor dining that's in the right-of-way comply with all requirements from Public Works and Building and Safety.
We do agree to those conditions. Those are reasonable. And I will go to Public Works right now and discuss whatever pending application is there.
Okay. All right, thank Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm going to close the public hearing. Based on the findings recommended by staff, the facts and information presented at the hearing and other applicable departments, I'm going to go ahead and approve the conditional use permit for the sale of beer and wine, subject to the findings and then the added conditions as specified just now. After the hearing, the decision will be prepared in writing and will be in the form of a letter sent to the applicant and all persons who responded to the public notice, either by speaking at this hearing or by submitting written responses, and have provided their name and mailing address. The date of the decision will be the date of today's hearing. As it relates to appeals, under the appeal provision, Title 30, Chapter 30.62, the Glendale Municipal Code, the decision may be appealed to the Planning Commission within 15 days of the date of the decision. Anyone wishing to appeal may obtain forms from brochures on the procedures from Building and Safety section, which is the Permit Service section next door, Room 101, located on the same floor. The hearing is now officially closed. I want to thank everybody for coming. And it is 10:08 on April the 3rd. Thank you.